What's going on? Welcome into another episode of Always Talking Ball. I'm Tyler Noe. He's Lance Barton. Today we're hitting you with some more rankings. We're going to talk about the top 12 running backs in college football for 2025. These rankings are guys who, we expect to perform at a high level in 2025. And a lot of them are very proven. A lot of them kind of haven't done it on the big stage yet. So we're excited to get talking. Let's roll right into it. Man, the top of this list is pretty stacked with guys who were in the playoff semifinal against each other last year. And we could have went with either of the Penn State quarter or running backs at number one, but we went with Jeremiyah Love at Notre Dame. Highlight reel guy. I mean, just hurdles every game. He got injured in the last, game of the regular season against USC. He didn't have I'm not sure he had over 10 carries in any of the playoff games. And then obviously going through the season, you've got Jadarian Price there, who's probably, he's not going to make this list, but he's an honorable mention candidate. And it's kind of like with the next two guys we're going to talk about, the Penn State guys. What would a guy like Jeremiyah Love do if he was like the workhorse back for one of these teams, right? I mean, last year, 38% forced missed tackle rate. That's second among Power 4 running backs. And he averaged 6.9 yards per carry, which ranked third. So obviously he's a big play threat and something that Notre Dame in the running game has lacked for a long time.
Yeah, dude, you hit the nail on the head. This guy's a human highlight reel. Like when you think of the phrase and the name, just think of the name baller. That's what this dude is. Yeah. He's got track speed, sprinter speed, can make you miss, breaks tackles, runs hard. Like he's the total package. Could catch the ball out of the backfield. Do that run that most people remember that he had against Indiana, who at that time was the number one ranked rush defense in the country. What was it, a 99-yard run?
98, yeah.
The 98-yard run for the touchdown, explosive run where he outran everybody to the end zone there.
On an injured knee.
Yes, on an injured knee. And then I would say if you looked at like top 5 most memorable plays in college football last year, the run he had against Penn State, man, at the goal line was, plays from the playoffs, the Jack Sawyer strip sack fumble against Texas and Quinn Ewers to seal that game, and the just gladiator type run that Jeremiyah Love had against Penn State on the goal line, where he literally just dragging defenders across the goal line with a bum knee is just incredible. Man, that one play really just kind of signified like what Notre Dame was last year.
Yeah.
Period.
And juking out guys like Abdul Carter on one knee, like we said, and like we said, I mean, it's probably one of the greatest 2-yard runs anybody will ever have.
Ever. Seriously, ever. And yeah, I mean, that play signified Notre Dame season last year. This toughness, Marcus Freeman talked about, we want to be violent and physical. Like those are the words he was using. And just overcoming the injuries that Notre Dame did last year, Jeremiyah Love being one of them, playing through pain, playing through injury in that playoffs and still performing and still having a run like that against Penn State was nuts. But yeah, dude, this dude's a baller. And I haven't seen a list yet from anybody else that doesn't have this guy in the top like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So he absolutely should be number 1.
Hey, real quick, look at the bottom of the screen and hit that subscribe button. If it's already hit, we appreciate you very much. If not, it doesn't cost you a thing, and we appreciate you as well. Thank you. Number 2, we're going with Nick Singleton, running back for Penn State. He had over 1,100 rushing yards last year. He trailed only Jeremiyah Love and Isaac Brown among returning Power 4 running backs. Wasn't quite as big as Love on the yards per carry, but still 6.4. Big play threat is Nick Singleton. He's obviously kind of like the lightning to Kaytron Allen's thunder. And out of the backfield was a huge weapon for a Penn State team and Drew Aller, who literally just had like Tyler Warren in the running backs. Like obviously the wide receivers last year for Penn State were non-existent. He's had 682 receiving yards over the past 2 seasons, which is the 5th most of any FBS running back during that span. And it's the most of returning Power 4 running back. So 7 receiving touchdowns as well. He's a do-it-all guy for Penn State.
Yeah, dude, he's got, last year he had over 1,800 all-purpose yards, which is 5th in Penn State history. 41 career total touchdowns, which is second all time in Penn State history for running backs. You think about all the great running backs and all the great players that have played in Penn State. Yes, Singleton is a home run threat. He's all purpose. He does it all, man. Like he's an NFL's dream. Like he was the one that I was really surprised of the two between him and Kaytron Allen. I was surprised he came back. Obviously, in the world of NIL, you can obviously make it worth their while to be able to do that. But Singleton's game just really transitions well to the NFL with like him being an every down back, like he is. And I mean, really, let's just because they're on the same team. Number 3, we've got Kaytron Allen.
Yep.
The other Penn State running back. Again, like you said, he's the Thunder to Nick Singleton's Lightning. Kaytron Allen, 5'11", 230 pounds. Dude's a load. And you and I were at the Penn State Oregon Big Ten championship game in Indy, and Kaytron Allen went off in that game. He had over 100 yards rushing in the Big Ten championship game against Oregon that night, 8.8 yards per carry. He averaged 102 rushing yards per game and 7 yards per carry in the postseason last year. So the Big Ten championship game and the 3 playoff games, he performed his best of the season. But as far as the duo is concerned, Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, they're the first duo in Penn State history to rush for 1,000 yards each. It's the 9th time it's ever happened in Big Ten history. They're the second running back duo in Penn State history to each have over 2,000 rushing yards in their career. And in 2022, when both of these guys were freshmen, they were in the same recruiting class. They were the first freshman duo in Big Ten history to each rush for over 700 yards in a season. That's what we're talking about here with these two guys, okay? That's the reason why that they're 2 and 3 on this list. The
it's going to
numbers
be
backed
tough
up.
to slow them down.
It really is. And dude, I think it's even more impressive, like what you mentioned a minute ago, with the fact that Penn State's like, I know they were better in the passing game overall. Like, I'm not talking about just the wide receiver. I'm talking about just overall the passing game. It was definitely better last year than what it had been in previous years. They were a little bit more explosive under Andy Kotelnicki. But the wide receiver position being so just booty last year for Penn State, and knowing when every game that you play against this bunch that you've got to really key on that running game. And I know Tyler Warren went off last year, but still, like, your main thing when you play Penn State the last few years is you got to be able to stop those 2 tailbacks. So you know that going into it. That's your game plan. And you can't stop them. There's only a few teams that's been able to do that. And so, yeah, that's why they're 2 and 3 on our list.
Hey, real quick, look at the bottom of this screen and hit that subscribe button for us, please. And also follow us on Apple and Spotify. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps us out a ton. We greatly appreciate it.
Number 4, we're going with Makhi Hughes, running back at Oregon, transfer from Tulane. His first 2 seasons of college football play, granted he was playing in the American, but again, against American defenses with an American offensive line. So it's all relative there. He posted nearly 2,000 yards after contact in his first 2 seasons of college football. 1,982 yards after contact. Only Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton had more in that span. And those 2 guys are like running back 1 and running back 2 as far as rookie running backs go in the NFL. And most of any returning running back in the FBS, he's got 2,700 yards rushing since 2023. He now goes to Oregon and replaces Jordan James, and is a compliment, I guess Noah Whittington's a compliment to him because he's going to get the bulk of the carries. But he's in that Will Stein offense, and he's with Dante Moore, and he's with a lot of, that offensive line that Oregon really retooled with Isaiah World and all that. So big things from Makhi Hughes are expected this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the, I would say, 5 most important transfers in this last transfer portal cycle. With Oregon needing to replace Jordan James, they go out and get Makhi Hughes from Tulane. Like you said, the way he runs, as hard as he runs with a lot of passion and breaks a lot of tackles, just tough runner between the tackles. He's got some breakaway speed as well. The dude rushed for over 1,300 yards 2 years ago and rushed for over 1,400 yards last year, was 10th in the nation in rushing last year. He had 17 total touchdowns. So what's this dude going to do in Will Stein's offense? Like you just said, like Dante Moore, dual threat quarterback like that's talented, with the weapons that Oregon's going to have overall around him. Like, you're not going to be able just to key on Makhi Hughes and key on the running game there. With just Oregon has just a plethora of speed and weapons like they always do. Like, if he stays healthy, this guy may at the end of the year lead the nation in rushing. That's how good he is. But behind this Oregon offensive line that you just mentioned. So, yeah, dude, he's going to have a huge year for the Ducks.
Number 5, Louisville running back Isaac Brown. And another guy that's on honorable mention list, Duke Watson, is kind of his 1A to 1B there in Louisville for Jeff Brom. The crazy thing is about Isaac Brown is he's a former 3-star, right? He ran for almost 1,200 yards as a true freshman, the most of any returning Power 4 tailback. 7.2 yards per carry. That led all Power 4 running backs, so is better than Jeremiyah Love. So, again, Jeff Braun, we talked about him with quarterbacks, but his running backs at Louisville have quietly just kind of been coming on the scene the past couple of years, and they've got, I mean, we'll release our, top skill position units in the coming days, but Louisville, I don't want to spoil anything, but they're up there in the discussion for top skill position units, and Isaac Brown and Duke Watson, but Isaac Brown, they have a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. I mean, he was ACC Rookie of the Year last year, ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. The yards per carry, just nuts. And he wasn't just doing that. Like, I know, dude, I can already hear it now. Some people listening to this who aren't fans of teams in the ACC are going to be like, "Oh, you're doing that against who'd you doing it against? What's the competition?" Like, dude, nuts. So I'm going to answer that question for you. He averaged 7.5 yards per carry combined last year in their biggest games against Clemson, Notre Dame, SMU, Miami, and Kentucky. That was their 5 biggest games. The dude averaged 7.5 yards per carry in those games. So he was doing it against good competition, against good defenses. I mean, what can you say about this guy, man? For real, like, true freshman last year, a freshman last year, putting up these types of numbers. So again, I love how Jeff Brom has evolved. Like, that tells you how great of an offensive coach, honestly, Brom really is. Because if you think about it, we mentioned this in a previous pod when we were talking about Louisville being a playoff sleeper. Brom at Purdue was basically air raid because it didn't have any really good tailbacks when he was at Purdue. It had solid quarterbacks and really good wide receivers, Rondo Moore being one of them, David Bell. But then he comes over to Louisville, and now you see his offense, I think, really be what he really wants it to be, which would any offensive coach would really want it to be, which is balanced. You want to be able to have a good run game and a good pass game and be balanced. That's what he's able to do so far at Louisville because of dudes like this. And you mentioned the skill position group overall at Louisville. They're legit, man. They're legit. Like, go look at the cast they've got on the outside at receiver, and then you pair them with the 2 tailbacks that they've got here.
Yeah. Another ACC running back comes in at number 6, Jamal Haynes, Georgia Tech running back. Since 2023, 2,005 rushing yards, ranks first among Power 4 backs, 1,145 yards after contact, 4th in the country. He's probably the perfect back for that Buster Faulkner running attack they run there in Atlanta.
You know why he is, in my opinion? I think it's because Buster Faulkner is one of those, like, again, he's like a mad scientist as an offensive coordinator. He's very creative, really good, again, run and pass, finds ways to steal yards, and he'll do whatever it takes as an offensive coordinator to win football games. Like, not necessarily go out and score 50 points a game and be, like, just super explosive like Miami was last year with Cam Ward. Like, they're going to, if they need to play keep away from you and run the football and run clock, they're going to do that. If they need to be more explosive and be more balanced like they were against Georgia on Thanksgiving weekend last year, they can do that. Yeah. But Jamal Haynes is the perfect back for this offense because he's equally as good as a receiver as he is a tailback. Dude, did you know he's a converted wide receiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that until we were like taking deep dives on this. He converted wide receiver. The dude had, let's see here, he had 3 receiving touchdowns last year, finished the season strong against UGA and Vandy with 113 yards per game at 7.5 yards per clip. He had back-to-back weeks in mid-October last year. We had 128 yards and 173 yards, respectively, at 8 yards per carry against Duke and North Carolina. So the dude puts up huge numbers. And, again, him and Haynes King combined are among the best returning quarterback, running back, like duos in all of college football. They're definitely ranked up there somewhere in that top 10 range with those two together.
Baylor running back Bryson Washington comes in at number 7. He's a guy we've talked a lot about already this offseason as one of the names you're really going to have to watch in the Big 12 as far as playmakers goes. Again, skill position unit-wise, Baylor is loaded. Washington took over that lead back role, kind of second half of the season last year, along with Sawyer Robertson at quarterback. Had 818 yards, 11 touchdowns down the stretch of the season. So he's a guy we're looking at in the Big 12. Like I said, with those weapons and that quarterback taking some pressure off that running game, he should be able to find some holes and make some big plays for the Bears.
Yeah, he had over 1,000 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns last year. And like you said, he really didn't start they didn't really start feeding him the rock until about halfway through the season. I actually don't even think this is a hot take. I think this is safe to say. Sawyer Robertson, but even more so, Bryson Washington saved Dave Aranda's job at Baylor. And they're the reason why that there's so much hype surrounding Baylor this year. I mean, they're the best quarterback running back duo in the Big 12. Baylor last year started the season off 1-3, and Dave Aranda's seat couldn't be any hotter. And they were hardly giving the football to Bryson Washington at all during that stretch. In the last 6 games of the year, Jake Spavital for Baylor and Dave Aranda started running the football more and mostly running the football with Bryson Washington. In the last 6 regular season games, Baylor went 6-0, undefeated, and he averaged 21 carries per game at 137 yards per game at 7 yards per carry. So if you look at Baylor, the biggest difference of their team, again, love Sawyer Robertson. He's one of our top 12 quarterbacks in the country. If they don't make the conscious effort to put Bryson Washington as the lead back and start feeding him the rock more, I don't think Dave Aranda's still the head coach at Baylor, and nobody's talking about Baylor this upcoming year because if they're going through a coaching change and stuff, there's a really good chance a lot of those dudes would have transferred. So, and again, another one was a freshman last year putting up those numbers. So if he stays healthy, he's going to have a huge year for the Bears.
Coming in at number 8, we got Jonah Coleman from Washington, the human bowling ball at 5'9", 229 pounds. He's got quicker feet than you might expect. He's got, averages around 4.5 yards after contact per attempts in the last 2 seasons. He's a guy that I'm not sure he even started off on our list here when we were kind of, coming up with these lists a couple weeks ago. And then as we were starting to refine them and everything, he just slowly started creeping his way up. He lands into number 8. He's forced 35% missed tackle rate, in the last couple seasons. And that's kind of up there with Jeremiyah Love numbers. He's 15th among power forward tailbacks with 509 yards after the catch since 2023. So him and new quarterback Damon Williams, who didn't quite make the cut for our national list, but obviously he's in the top 3 for our Big 10 quarterbacks. They should form quite the dynamic backfield there in Seattle.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And Jonah Coleman's the leading returning rusher in the Big 10 this year. He's kind of the elder statesman. He's a veteran. He came over with Jedd Fisch from Arizona. He was really good at Arizona that year that Arizona won 10 games. Jonah Coleman was a huge reason why with QB Noah Fafita that year and Tet McMillan. And again, speaking of that, so this year you've got Damon Williams, you've got Jonah Coleman, and you've got wide receiver Denzel Boston to form that trio that it was a huge reason why Jedd Fisch had the success he had at Arizona. They're going to have a trio like that at Washington this year. But, I mean, he had over 100 yards against Indiana, which was the number 1 rush defense in the country last year. He had over 100 yards against USC. He ran well against Michigan, who had a really good rush defense as well. But the most important thing about this, something you got to think about here, we're going to also definitely mention this with another tailback here in a minute that we're going to mention. Washington had one of the worst offensive lines in the Big 10 last year. If you don't believe me, they gave up with a legit dual threat quarterback in Damon Williams. He was sacked 10 times in the game against Oregon in one game. And if you look at some of the stats about running backs getting hit at the line of scrimmage, like Tyler's talking about, all these forced missed tackle rates and all that stuff. A lot of that's got to do with because he has to break tackles because the dude's getting hit at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage constantly. And he's still able to put up the numbers that he's putting up. He has of among these top 12 that we have on this list, he ran behind the second worst offensive line of the 12 running backs team that we've got on this list.
Yeah. Coming in at number 9, our first SEC running back. That kind of struck me when we were doing this list. We waited till number 9 for an SEC running back. We've only got 2 on the list total. And you're used to just kind of having SEC having, tailbacks. And it's an interesting year for them. But we got Jadyn Baugh at Florida, another guy who was a true freshman last year. We think he has breakout potential this year. I mean, could be an all SEC running back. He amassed 673 yards and averaged better than 5 yards per carry with 7 touchdowns in the last 7 games last year. Why do I mention the last 7 games? Well, he saw 74% of his season carries in the back half of the season last year. So he wasn't utilized a lot. Montrell Johnson was kind of a guy they were relying on last year down in Gainesville. They kind of saw the writing on the wall that said, hey, let's give Ball some more carries while DJ Lagway comes in. They kind of, formed a really good 1-2 punch there in the backfield. And he did that against teams like Georgia and Texas and LSU and Ole Miss. So, give him a full season and a full healthy season at that. Like, we think he could be really good this year.
I don't know that there's a backfield in the country that is more freakish than Florida.
Yeah.
DJ Lagway, 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds, and can move like he can, as good enough and an athlete as he is, as a true freshman last year. And then Jadyn Baugh is 6'1", 227 pounds. His feet, the way he moves at that size, as fast as he is, as explosive as he is at that size, I mean, he's an NFL's dream. If this dude can stay healthy and avoid like major injuries, he is going to be one of those tailbacks that I know that running backs don't get drafted a lot in the first round. He really has that type of potential to be able to do that at this side, at the speed and the size and the missed tackle ability and the explosive ability that this guy has. I know that there's going to be some stat sheet tallies that's going to be watching this and or listening to this and go, he didn't have as many yards as this guy or whatever. Yeah, because he was a true freshman that they didn't go to until halfway through the season last year. Again, Florida had a 44% winning percentage since 2021. They were 19-24 record. In games that DJ Lagway has started, they went 6-1. Also during that stretch is when they also went to Jadyn Baugh starting at tailback. So I know that Lagway gets all the pub, and rightfully so, at the quarterback position, but Baugh is just about as important as he is when Florida went through that stretch playing that ridiculous schedule that they were playing down the stretch last year and beating LSU and beating Ole Miss. And a lot of that had to do with Jadyn Baugh. And I want to mention his first game that he started, they played Kentucky. The dude had over 100 yards and 5 tutties in his first start. He's going to have a huge year this year, man, and he absolutely agree with you that he's got breakout superstar potential.
Yep. Number 10, we got an elder statesman we're going to mention here, Le'Veon Moss, running back for Texas A&M. He's going to be a senior this season. He averaged 6.3 yards per carry in 2024, had 10 touchdowns. He's not a guy that has like elite breakaway speed or anything like that, but he's very explosive. He's got the proven ability to run between the tackles. And he missed the last 4 games of the season last year. He got injured against South Carolina. And honestly, like with that rushing attack and that 3 to 4 headed monster they're going to have in the backfield, not even including Marcel Reed there in College Station, we had to pick someone from that. And why not pick like the leader of that backfield on Le'Veon Moss?
Yeah, Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, Reuben Owens, E.J. Smith, like all 4 of those guys are studs. Marcel Reed's obviously with his dual threat ability is going to run the ball some as well. But Le'Veon Moss would have led the SEC in rushing last year if he doesn't get injured. Yeah. He had over 800 yards rushing, and he missed 5 games last year. That's nuts. He had multiple games where he had well over 100 yards before he got injured. And if, again, you want to talk about players, how important they are, this dude goes down, and then after he goes down, Texas A&M's season went down the drain as well at the end of the year. They were sitting there with a chance to actually play for an SEC championship. I remember going into that game against South Carolina and Columbia. I think that's the game he actually like had the season-ending injury.
Yeah,
that game was not in hand yet. It was a really good game between those 2 squads in Columbia. He goes down, and then Lenore Sellers took over, and South Carolina put it on him. And then they went to Auburn and had that crazy game at Auburn, lost at Auburn. They played Texas, lost to Texas, couldn't move the football against Texas at all. Again, Le'Veon Moss was a huge reason why A&M last year had the success they had when they had it. But yeah, I mean, if you take his yards per carry and you take his overall like yards per game, and if you extrapolate that out to a 12-game season in the regular season, he would have led the SEC in rushing last year by a decent margin, actually.
Yeah. Coming in at number 11, arguably the biggest running back spring portal transfer this year was Jadyn Ott coming from Cal over to Oklahoma and giving Ben Arbuckle and Brent Venables a really solid rushing threat that the Sooners have kind of lacked over the past couple of years. You look at his stats again, right? Last year, 385 yards. He just had a nagging ankle injury for Cal. And the fact that you mentioned it earlier when we're talking about the offensive lines, they had the 20th worst PFF run blocking grade in college football. And the offensive line for Cal was just atrocious. That probably is the reason 5 tailbacks from Cal transferred in the offseason.
Yeah, dude, they were 130th in the nation in sacks given up, and they were 131st in the nation in tackles for a loss given up. There's only 133 teams in the FBS level. That's how bad they were.
136 now. Props to Delaware State, and I can't remember who else is in the FBS now, but 136. But yeah, you talk about his 2022 and 2023 seasons, though. He forced 108 missed tackles. That was 6th among Power 4 running backs. He was at almost 1,400 yards rushing after contact. Again, after contact, because that offensive line was so bad. That was the 7th most, and he had 517 receiving yards. So he's a dual threat running back, running the ball, catching the ball out of the backfield with John Mateer there. The plays that they want to run, the offensive style they want to run. Man, this Oklahoma team, the more and more I look into them and look into Ott and all those guys, like they're looking dangerous. If they didn't have that schedule, what would everybody be saying about this Oklahoma team right now?
Yeah, again, I think if Oklahoma had like Missouri's schedule, for example, could you imagine what people would be saying about them as far as their preseason ranking is concerned? But I'm with you, man. Jadyn Ott is the perfect fit. Like he's a great player, okay? He's an incredible back. But the fit that he is at Oklahoma for this Ben Arbuckle offense is perfect, man. He wants to throw the ball to the back out of the backfield quite a bit, use him as a receiver, just to kind of an all-purpose type back, and that's what Ott is. The dude's had 96 catches from the tailback position in his career. And then you couple that, like you said, with his overall rushing ability, obviously. It's nuts, man. And again, he would probably be higher on this list if he didn't have the offensive line that he had.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to some of these other backs to rank Jadyn Ott ahead of them by saying, well, if he had a better, like, we don't know that. But like, dude, it's kind of, I don't think it's that bad to project the fact that, like, when you look at those numbers, how awful that offensive line was, and to put up the numbers that he still put up in 2022 and 2023. And like you said, last year, I know there's going to be somebody that's going to listen to this and they're just going to just go read stats and that's it. And say, he only had 385 yards last year. Yeah, he was injured, like you said, nagging ankle injury almost the whole season.
Yeah.
Like he was battling all year. So if Oklahoma is going to have the year that some are projecting them to have, and they're going to be as good as what you and I believe that they truly can be this year, Jadyn Ott will be a huge reason why.
Rounding out the top 12, Minnesota running back Darius Taylor. It's a guy, I think he's been around for, it seems like 8 or 9 years up there in Minneapolis.
It seems like it, but this is only his third. He's just a junior this year, I think.
I know. And since over his first 2 years, again, we mentioned yards after contact, but with Minnesota and PJ Fleck, they've got a good offensive line. So this guy's doing it past the line of scrimmage, over 1,300 yards after contact since 2023. That's second among Power 4 returning runners. So, again, Minnesota is a team that wants to run the ball. They want to play physical, and Darius Taylor is one of the best guys to do that.
Yeah, he said over 1,300 all-purpose yards last year with over 1,000 on the ground, over 300 yards receiving. He caught 54 balls out of the backfield. So, again, another one that is just a great all-around back. At 6 foot, 215, the way he runs is, again, every down back like he is. He's another one. I'm telling you, like, you look up, we've seen other Minnesota running backs have success in the NFL. This type of guy is one of those that NFL teams will drool over. He's probably not going to be a first round or second round pick, but you look up there in the 3rd round, there's Darius Taylor getting drafted by, I'm just making up a team, the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. And you're like, dang, what a pick. There he is running wild for a team like the Ravens or the Steelers or somebody like that. But I'm going to go back to his freshman year in 2023, because that's when I remember early in the year, like, who is this cat? Mm-hmm. In 2023, before he got injured, like Darius Taylor got injured about halfway through the season in like early to mid-October. He was the leading rusher in the entire Big Ten before he went out with an injury. he had 3 games that year in 2023 where he rushed for over 190 yards per game in those games. He rushed for over 190 yards 3 different times that year and averaged 133 yards per game before he went out with an injury. And they brought him back in the bowl game against Bowling Green. I know it's Bowling Green, but he ran for over 200 yards against Bowling Green when they did bring him back from injury. And he finished the season strong last year in the rivalry game. Was it Paul Bunyan's Axe against Wisconsin, and in their bowl game against my Hokies over here. He ran wild in both of those games. So he's one of my favorite backs, honestly, man, to watch. The dude is solid as can be. But that rounds out our top 12.
We mentioned Jadarian Price, Duke Watson. You got any other honorable mentions for us? Because the running back is just kind of like a position that everyone, obviously wants to watch. But it's been kind of devalued here in the past, 5 to 10 seasons.
Yeah, I think that 2 that probably people are going to have the biggest problem with that we don't have on our list are Desmond Reed at Pitt. Again, he's the definition of all-purpose. Like when you think, like if we had like Athlon magazine and some of these teams, when they do their All-American lists, they have 2 running backs and then they'll have an all-purpose player. Desmond Reed might be first-team All-American all-purpose. He's that good. Kick returns, the return game, catching the ball out of the backfield in that Cade Bell offense for Pitt. But like for as a true like running back overall, like running the freaking ball, he's good. I'm not saying he's not good. He's explosive. I just personally don't think that overall traditional running back wise that he's as good as some of these guys that we got on this list. We got to cut it off somewhere at 12 when we have only got 12. And the other one is a dude that just exploded on the scene last year for old UL Monroe was Ahmad Hardy. As a freshman last year, he's one of the leading returning rushers in the entire country. But again, I know there's some people going to listen to this and be like, oh, yeah, you guys are elitists or something like, you only care about Power 4 football. Not the case. But some of these guys, man, the competition they're playing against, like I like to say what you like to say. If Darius Taylor would have been running against the competition that Ahmad Hardy was running against at UL Monroe, can we project that he probably puts up the same amount of numbers that guy does?
Yeah.
We're going to find out. Good news is we're going to find out how good Ahmad Hardy is this year because the transfer portal was the good things about the transfer portal is in this situation right here. Ahmad Hardy, under-recruited, was not highly rated at all, coming out of high school, goes to UL Monroe and runs freaking wild at UL Monroe last year. Of course, teams are going after him hard in the transfer portal, and he jumps in the portal and he transfers to Eli Drinkwitz in Mizzou right here in my backyard. And Mizzou, their type of run game that they have, that stretch zone run plays that they run, he actually is a great fit for that. Yeah. So we're going to find out this year if Ahmad Hardy is as good. And, hey, he has a chance to blow this list up, and I'm all for it if he does.
Yeah. That's our list for top running backs. We're about halfway through our offensive side of the ball and our rankings list. Up next, we've got, top skill position units. We got top offenses as a whole, so a couple of team rankings there. And then, we're going to get to one of Lance's favorites, top offensive coordinators in the country. So he can't wait for that. We appreciate you guys listening. Follow us along on X, Instagram, TikTok. Follow us on Spotify and Apple, and subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate you very much, and we'll see you next time.